Welcome to the wonderful world of online technology. It is a new adventure for myself, and thank you for your patience. We are here with Mr. Yaakov Barr. Yaakov Barr, please introduce yourself, say hello, and welcome to Aish UK Online.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Can I just say that it's an honor to be here. This is new for everybody, and whoever has made it tonight, then let's hope that tonight's going to be the start of probably a discussion where we're going to come together, we're going to talk about what's bothering us, we're going to try and hopefully come away with some nice, good techniques and strategies, and that we can all feel a bit more comfortable knowing that we're going into something which is a challenge and a difficulty, and the way to deal with it is exactly what Aish and Shmuel and company have put together. This is how we're going to deal with this properly, by talking about it, by confronting it, by being open, and that's why it's exciting to actually be a part of this. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Yaakov Barr, for being with us here tonight and giving us your time and your expertise. As you said, this is a really important topic, and my name is Shmulli Kott. I work with Aish UK. My wife and I live here in West Hampstead, and we're involved with a lot of young people in the neighborhood and throughout Northwest London and the Greater London. And the past couple of days have been absolutely challenging. They have been new, and they have been days that are bringing up new experiences, new feelings, new emotions, and new conversations. And a lot of the discussions we've had with many of our friends, close friends, family, students, they've touched on one topic that has been on everyone's minds. And
right, I'm here.
Amazing. And are we live?
Sorry, 1 second.
Right, it's all going. Hey.
Yeah, I think you're back on now.
Right.
Amazing. Okay. Okay, I'm so sorry about that. We had lost connection for a little bit, but we are back. And thank you all so much for bearing with us and being back with us. And I have to just say thank you all for joining us. Whoever's with us tonight, either in your own living rooms or in your dining room, on your couch, from home, we're all together, and that's a beautiful thing. So as we were talking, we're here with Yaakov Barr, a therapist here from Northwest London, who has extensive experience working with these specific topics: stress, anxiety, and the effects of isolation. Yaakov has given us his time to talk to us and to answer some of the questions that are coming along. We've received a lot of questions, really, from across the community, all ages, all backgrounds. And one thing that we see a pattern flowing through so many of the questions is that a lot of people are experiencing what they'll call stress and anxiety. And everyone says it maybe in a different form, in a different language, but a lot of those questions all are circling around that word, those words, stress and anxiety. So Mr. Barr, what we would like to ask you tonight, to start us off with this discussion, is can you tell us a little bit about what is important for us to all understand about what do these words mean? How do we define the word stress, the word anxiety? How do we recognize whether that's what we're experiencing and in what form we're experiencing it? And can you, from your experience, share a few ideas, a few tools about how we can all start to think about these feelings, these experiences, and what we could do to really keep our mental health at peak levels in these very, very challenging and stressful times. So I'm going to leave it up to you. Please tell us what we all are thinking about and wanting to understand better.
Okay, thank you, Shmuel. Okay, so look, the world has never faced this type of anxiety probably before, because what we're faced here is what's predominant above anything else is uncertainty, and very much lying at the root of a lot of anxiety is uncertainty. Uncertainty means that we don't know. I mean, you can see from the way each government and each country is dealing with it. We don't fully know. We don't know how long it's going to last. We don't know the severity of the problem. And when human beings, we are hardwired. We don't like uncertainty, and when we are faced with uncertainty, we feel very anxious. We feel very stressed. This crisis, probably above all other things, has created a huge uncertainty. So it's obvious and would be normal that we're all going to feel, and we're not human beings. Are human beings? We're not robots, and we're all going to feel certain sense of anxiety. The definition of anxiety is we feel a threat. We are all feeling in a certain way threatened. And that's why the beauty of what we're doing tonight, and I hope that we will try and do this more often, because just by us sharing our feelings, sharing our concerns, the questions, as you say, we've had loads of questions pouring in, and just the people writing the questions and sharing their feelings, that's already, we're one step closer. Instead of being like the British like to be, with a stiff upper lip and walking around feeling that we mustn't show our feelings and we mustn't demonstrate any weakness. Here we are. We have to be open to the fact that yes, we are feeling anxious. Yes, we are feeling panicky. We are uncomfortable. And that's normal, fine, and we're going to work on it, and we're going to work on tonight some strategies and some ways of how we can deal with it. So let's take sort of step by step. Some of the things we're going to talk about will be more known and more obvious. Other things will be some things that we don't know so much about. But I think we should start off, with talking about the media, because there's never been an event in the world that has been able to have sort of real-time media, social media, news coverage like this one. And we're all doing what we do best, and we're all making sure that we have blanket coverage throughout the day with pings going on our phone all hours of the day or night. And I think we had one question of somebody who was worried about how we're going to cope. He heard a story of a young person who got coronavirus, and how is he going to cope with that? And what ends up happening is the more that we feed ourselves with all this sensational media, with the stories, the gripping headlines, the more we're going to set ourselves up to hearing all sorts of crazy, scary stories. And therefore, I think we all have to try, as much as we sort of feel compelled to know everything, because that's almost our way of feeling a bit more certain. So we said that uncertainty is difficult. So the more certain we can be, psychologically, the happier that we're going to feel. So what everyone does is we try to bombard ourselves with as much news and as possible, in the hope that we're going to feel a bit more certain, we're going to know a bit more. But actually, it has the opposite effect. What ends up happening is we just end up getting fed with scaremongering. A lot of it can be fake news, as we had this week. So I think it's really the first thing we can do, the first step we can put in place is to say, let's put a few curbs and a few limits on how much news we're going to listen to every day. Are we going to each person according to what they feel is appropriate for them? So, if we're going to, instead of looking at our phone the whole time and have the ringer on the whole time with these not endless texts and pings, then maybe we can go an hour, half an hour. Let's put it on silent. Let's try to, do some other things. Let's try to refocus. But let's not try to have 24 hours of updates. I mean, there was a guy this week that I saw that was suffering a lot. And he had an app on his phone that he could track every single fatality in the world as it happens. And, we can all recognize that, obviously, if you're going to get that type of coverage, then you're going to be feeling extremely vulnerable. So I think for the ensuing time, we don't know how long this is going to last for. There's going to be huge amounts of news and stories and comments and analysis. But why do we have to be in the middle of it? Why can we step back a little bit so that we can sort of at least feel that we can sort of cut away, a step back from the story? We're not in the middle of the drama. I think that would be a very nice step one to try and do. Each person what he's able to do.
That's wonderful. That's a great idea. I have to tell you that I myself have found myself checking the news so much more often than I feel is actually good for me and healthy. And it's put limits on it, to just put a number, whatever it might be. Everyone can make their own decisions, but I really do believe that that's a great tool that we could use to not over bombard ourselves with these messages.
Exactly. I mean, they've done actually, they've done very interesting research. When we get a ping on our phone from a WhatsApp message or a beep from an email, whatever it might be, what they've done is that they've hooked sort of electrodes onto people's brains to see how their brain reacts when they get that ping. And what ends up happening, especially with a news story like this, is every time we hear our phone go, there will be a sort of an anxiety level that will peak. We'll feel a certain anxiety, and then we'll look at the message and we might see, oh, it's just a joke, it's just one of those endless memes or funny things, and then it will go down again. But every time we get an alert, that is going to just for a millisecond sort of jump that anxiety. If you can imagine if that's going to be happening every day, many hundreds of times over, that is going to have a cumulative effect. So let's at least turn off the phones for a certain amount of time, and then we can sort of just enjoy a bit of quiet from it.
Incredible. So that's step one. I guess how your approach is that at step one is let's minimize the source of our anxiety. Let's minimize the sources of our stress. Another question that's arisen is when we do start to feel those feelings of anxiety and we start to feel feelings of distress. Sometimes they can be intense, sometimes they can be fleeting, but they're not comfortable. What would you advise as a tool for us to be able to deal and to process those feelings when they do arise? How should we think about them? How should we speak about them? What would you tell people who want to know?
Okay, so we're all going to be feeling these sort of feelings at various times. Yes, even the therapists. And what we have to try and do is we have to try not to block these emotions. If you imagine like it's a wave. So if you put a wall, they've seen now this sometimes with the flooding that goes on. If you put, let's say, a dam in front of a wave, what ends up happening is the water, because it's being stopped, it bangs onto that wall at a huge speed and can cause damage. But if that water and that wave was allowed to normally float along and hit the beach and the sand, then it loses its power and it's allowed to just wash away. And we have to treat emotions are going to be like waves. So when we're feeling these emotions, let's not try to block them. Let's not try to stop them. Let's not try to hide them and sort of make ourselves feel we shouldn't be feeling like this, because when we do that, all we are doing is we are putting that wall in front of it. Let's just be okay with not feeling okay. I think that's going to be, we're going to say this a lot of times. We're going to say this, we're going to have to remember this. It's okay not to feel okay. And at times like this, we're not going to feel okay. And that is fine. Where anxiety spirals and where it grows is actually, what is called in psychology, a meta emotion. It's when we're anxious about feeling anxious. We're stressed about feeling stressed, because the actual anxiety itself might not be so bad, but because we're so worried about it, that makes it get much worse. So I think what we're going to try and do is let's try to be more comfortable. We can share it with, we're going to talk about, I think, with the other questions about how we're going to deal with more social communication and stuff like that. but let's be willing to share. Let's be telling our loved ones, our spouses, family members, parents, let's say how we're feeling more. And that's a way of us being able to process and being okay with these emotions.
Very well. Very true. One question that I saw coming up quite often amongst a lot of the young people is the questions that surround the fact that so many people have put in so much effort, and there were so much plans put into place for what's going to be for the next few months, for the coming year. And there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of distress around the fact that everything that we've worked so hard towards has now been put on hold, or possibly has been destroyed. So those feelings are very, very strong. And the people are wondering, like, how do they process the distress they feel about not only the future, but all the effort and all the time that's now seems like it's been futile. What would you say to people who are feeling strong feelings of despair?
Well, I mean, there is going to be those feelings because we've lived our life. We like to live our life with a plan, and we feel comfortable when everything's going to plan. Well, what's happened now is there is no plan, and that makes us feel huge feelings of worry and stress and vulnerability. I think what we have to be very careful with is what I like to call the maybe game. The maybe game is when we start getting into the realms of maybe this is going to happen, maybe that's going to happen, and there's no end to the maybe game because there's everything possible is going to happen. I mean, I'm sitting here in my house. I don't know if the roof is going to fall down. If I started looking at the cracks and started analyzing it, then who knows? I might start, starting to have second thoughts about this. Doing it in this room, what we're doing tonight. So what we have to try and be careful is we have to try as much as we can to be in the present and not to allow the maybes to make us feel very unsettled. There's going to be so many ramifications, but we don't know. We don't know what's going to be. I mean, just on the news tonight, they were talking about how the exams are going to work and they're going to find ways to deal with it, and there'll be different solutions. We're all in the same boat. I think we have to realize when it comes to this thing that whoever is feeling very vulnerable, you're not the only one, you're not alone. Just, we're just seeing all these questions. It would be great if we could share the questions out, which we obviously can't do, but just so that people could see what you're feeling. There's the person next door might be feeling the same thing. We are in this together, but we must try not to play this maybe game and start sitting there and working out doomsday scenarios. Our way is very much, we're going to try and do the best what we can do, and we're going to try and stay in the present. We're going to work on now and tomorrow and the next day.
So important. It's so important. And you've said it so well. I want to move on to a question. You've raised it before, that communication. You talked about a little bit about how it's so important to talk about these topics, to talk about what we're feeling and what we're going through. Could you give us a little advice on two things that have been raised? Number one is, what's the correct fashion, the correct way, and the healthy way to go about talking about this? How do you bring it up in conversation with your loved ones? And as well, how do you explain some of what's going on in the world today, some of these things that are a little bit scary to people that you are surrounded with, your family, your elderly grandparents, or perhaps your young children or your young siblings? How do you speak it to them in a way that is best for their mental health and for your mental health? And how would you advise one make themselves more comfortable and more open to bringing up these topics to discussing their emotions and their feelings with people that can be there for them?
Well, I think it's going to be vital, and I think maybe for the first time, emotional health has always been a stigma. We've always seen in the past that People find it, although 1 in 4 people, well, until this crisis has come, but a quarter of the world's population at any one time is suffering from emotional health problems, and yet nobody likes to really talk about it and confront it. Well, this situation, this crisis means that we don't need to hide anymore, because quite frankly, if anyone's not feeling anything, someone did call me today and was worried that maybe they're not anxious enough, and was panicking that maybe they're not panicking. So that's something else. But I think it is not considered a weakness for us to be able to be open with the fact that we can say to mum, you know, I'm really feeling quite worried about this. Just by sharing that, that already is going to make us feel more comfortable. When we're sharing it, we're not always asking for the solutions, and we're not really expecting people to necessarily have the solutions for us. But at least the fact that we can let it out there and other people can say, yes, I know how you're feeling, and that already makes us feel a part of something. I think one of the big challenges that we're going to have to cope with is that because whether it's going to be now or maybe a week's time or 2 weeks' time, there's going to be already more and more people who are going to have to be in self-isolation, so almost disconnected. And our challenge is we're going to have to try and work on being connected in a sort of a disconnected situation, which is a complete irony, because the world up until today has always been the opposite. We've always been officially really connected with all technology and everything, and yet loneliness, depression has never been higher. So we've had our ability to be connected, we haven't taken it. This is our chance where officially we are disconnected, because I'm in my house, my parents are in their house, my friends are in a different house, and yet we're going to have to work on, and we can do this, we can really try using technology, reaching out with whether it's kindnesses, to really connect with other people. If we can, the more we can connect, the more we can feel that we are not alone, and we will start feeling more confident in this situation. And when it's so I know we haven't sort of answered all those things. When you're talking to kids, you're not going to have all the answers, and parents parents are allowed to. In fact, it's very good to be able to tell children that, you know, I don't always know, and that's fine. We don't have to feel that they know that you're there for them. That is the key. And you might say, well, we don't know right now, this is what we do know, and children will be able to manage with that. So don't feel sort of intimidated if you don't have all the answers, but do bring it up, because by not talking about it with our children, then they know, they're well aware of what's going on. And with all the fake news going on, we prefer them to have a real sort of understanding of what's going on, even however difficult that might be, rather than them picking up things from elsewhere.
Very well. Thank you so much. Here's another question that came in a few times in different forms. Some of the complications that have been coming up from the challenging times we're going through are in an interesting way. They're the fact that so many people are going to self-isolation, or leaving university, going back to their homes, or leaving their offices and being at home most of the day. It creates a stressful, sometimes a stressful atmosphere in the home. One person actually wrote in saying that they've never really had a great relationship with their parents, and being away at university has always been helpful by keeping a little bit of a distance so they can keep the relationship in a good place. But now that they're back at home and they're walking over each other and just spending so much time in close proximity, it's bringing up a lot of tension. And this happens to so many people who are experiencing being isolated in a small space with people on a consistent basis and in a stressful atmosphere. What would you say are some good tools and good steps to take to creating a atmosphere in the home, or an atmosphere wherever one may be, that will avoid the tension or the complications coming up in relationships?
Okay. Okay, yeah, we did have a lot of questions about that, and that is to be expected because we're gonna, this is throwing up scenarios that many people have done their utmost to get away from the house, and now they're back in. And to be honest, I mean, there's a reason why we call it Sunday blues. And the reason why Sunday is called blue for depression is because Sundays is a hard day. Why? Because we're often inside, and once we're inside, we're getting irritated and there's tension, and that's just for a Sunday. Here we may well have quite a lot of these Sundays, and our challenge is to try and make sure they're not going to be blue. And with a bit of planning and foresight, we can do this. Let's discuss 3 particular steps that we can take. The first thing is, if you're going home and you're going to be around people who you in the past found it difficult to get on with, let's start off. You're going to be around these people for the next, we don't know, weeks, months, maybe. Okay, relationship might be quite bad up till now. Let's start doing 1 or 2 little things that we can now sort of boost that relationship. So, for example, I told someone this week who wasn't getting on with his mum. I told him, just once a day, text your mum, how are you? Is there anything I can do around the house? And what she was going to do back is, when she was upset with him for doing anything wrong, rather than shouting, she was going to just message him what she was upset about, rather than having a whole big argument. So let's see if you can do 1 or 2 things, little things that will just sort of add some good feeling to the relationship. And that we can all try and do actions. So just specific actions that you can do. And once we're a bit kind, we do something nice for the other person, they respond, all of a sudden, we're starting to move on upward. So that's number 1, do something for the other person. Number 2, be someone with a plan. Wake up in the morning, don't wake up not knowing what on earth we're going to do. And this is going to be really, really important for everybody. Let's go to bed knowing that tomorrow in the morning, I'm going to have breakfast, I'm going to read a bit, I'm going to have a bath, I'm going to phone a friend, but we're going to have a plan of what you're going to do. You might tidy the house. So you've got an agenda. If we've got an agenda, you're not just sitting there bored. And it's going to take a lot of thinking and imagination of what we can do in the day. As we get more and more sort of isolated, and if the quarantine measures sort of are ramped up, then we're going to have to be more imaginative of what we're going to do. But there are plenty of things we can do. For example, and I will be honest, and those that now look at me in a different way, that's fine, I'm willing to take the risk. But today I ordered an adult colouring book, and I have no doubt there will be some time the next few days that I will sit there and do some colouring, and that is fine, because that will be a therapeutic activity that for the half an hour that I'm doing that, I don't need to start worrying about what's going to happen in the world. And so let's try to see if you can have a good plan to do. And if you've got a plan, that means you're not going to be on top of the other people in the house. And I think the final thing is, for this question, is try to have a bit of time. If you're in a house where there's quite a few people around, try to see if you can have a few hours here and there where you're going to have quality time by yourself. If everybody's together, then tempers are going to flare. If you can try and see if you can just be alone in your bedroom and you're just relaxing, you're just having quality time with yourself a little bit, then when you're around the other people, you're fresher and you're able to cope better.
Incredible. Absolutely important. 3 steps to be able to take to deal with isolation in the home. And we really all should take these ideas seriously. And as we're wrapping up over here, I just want to say 1 or 2 things. Tonight was an incredible conversation. This 30 minutes that we've had with you, Mr. Yaakov Barr, and a lot of the questions that came in were a lot of things that many of us are, struggling with. Some of the questions are maybe beyond the scope of what we could do here on an online forum. What I would say, and I think it's very important for us all to remember, we are all going through very, very challenging times, and there's no stigma. There should be no taboo on whatever it is that we need to do to be able to take care of our mental health, of ourselves, of our loved ones. reach out to professionals, reach out to the resources in the community that can help us get the help that we may need. And no one should ever feel at all, ever embarrassed or reluctant to reach out to get help. Tonight was a conversation starter. This is to start the conversation, to be aware of what's going on, of what we're all experiencing, and to be more conscious of it so that we can recognize what we're experiencing and what we can do to minimize the struggle, and to also be able to recognize when it's time for us to make a phone call, reach out to the resources that can help us. We see that a lot of people have tuned in tonight. A lot of people have submitted questions. We have not even touched the surface, even the tip of the iceberg about what there is to discuss. I'm very, very hopeful and looking forward to possibly trying to do one of these sessions again in the near future. Possibly if we could have Yaakov Barr, it would be amazing. Thank you so much for your time.
Well, I think it's going to be vital for everybody if we can try and do this more regularly. Then everyone's going to know. We're going to know that we're in this. We're all here, and we're there together. We're facing it together. You're not. No one is alone. We are facing this together. We've had, as Shmuel said, we've had one or two of the questions where people really are feeling unbelievably helpless and hopeless, and it is beyond the scope of what we've done tonight. We'll please God, we'll touch on, we'll cover more things next time we meet. There's plenty more stuff we can work on. But if anyone is feeling sort of vulnerable and unsafe, then they must reach out, whether it's a GP, whether it's it's an A&E. But please, look after yourself. Your health is absolutely priority.
Thank you so much. Before I leave, I just want to say that we at Aish are taking this all very seriously. We're reaching out to our students, to our alumni, to the community, and we're here for you in every way. If anyone would like to speak to any of the staff at Aish, please don't hold back for even a moment. Call us, contact us. You can always email us at info@aish.org.uk. And God willing, we're looking forward to doing further follow-up sessions about these topics, about these conversations. And we really encourage everyone, be part of it. Spread this conversation. Make this conversation not end here, but this should just be the beginning. This should be the start of really bringing this out to the wide audience. That we should all be discussing these things, be open about them, and looking to be there for each other in every way. I thank you so much, Yaakov Barr,
Pleasure.
for your time, your expertise, and we really cannot thank you enough for being with us here tonight. And we're looking forward every night, 8 o'clock p.m., Aish Online, and at 1 o'clock in the afternoon as well, Aish UK Online every single day. We are going to be streaming incredible sessions, and God willing, as well, we'll have a follow-up session about stress, anxiety, and isolation. Thank you so much, and well, God bless you all.